Hi guys, I bring you another Tomb King's battle report, and this time is the second game of my league. The scenario will be Battleline and the game will last 5 turns. For spells, my Hierophant gets Desert Wind, Protection, Smiting and Desiccation. My low level Light Priest gets Burning Gaze and Fast Protection, while the level 4 Light Wizard gets Burning Gaze, Speed of Light, Net of Amintok and Banishment. On the Skaven side, Lord Skrolk gets Cloud of Corruption, Wither and Plague, and the Plague Priest gets Vermintide and Pestilent Breath. In the end, most of our units ended up on the right side of the board. My deployment from left to right consists on a small unit of archers, a unit of 4 Necropolis Knights, a small gap, then another unit of skeleton archers. I used these guys as initial deployments to get a better position. To the right it's the big unit of archers, behind them another unit of Necropolis Knights, in front of them the Hydro Titan, and 2 units of horse archers 16 inches away from my enemy. Since I feared my opponent could get the dreaded 13, all my characters start on the big archer unit. Finally, on the far right, the Casket of Souls hides behind the building with a small unit of horse archer to protect him against skirmishers. My opponent's deployment is also divided in 2 flanks. On his left flank he has a small unit of slaves, the warp lighting cannon and a unit of rat ogres. And on the other flank he has a unit of Gisales, a rattling gun, a clan rat, a doomwell, a unit of plague monks with 5 characters in it, quite a deadly Death Star for me, and finally a unit of night runners. Finally a unit of gutter runners deployed in front of the casket, but were blocked by my horse archers. We roll off and Skaven start the game. And they start with an aggressive move, activating the banner from the plague monks and marching forward 15 inches toward my archers. The Doomwell, the Night Runners, the slaves and the rat ogres advance at full speed forward. Finally, the gutter runners march outside the horse archer arc of sight toward the Hydro Titan, who doesn't have the cover the Casket of Souls has. The magic phase starts with 4 power dice for Skrolk, who tries to cast Plague on the big archer unit, but I used the Dispel Scroll to stop it. Then on the shooting phase, the Gisales almost kill a whole unit of horse archer, while the rattling gun managed to kill only 3 of them. Both units barely survive, and the warp lighting cannon fails to hit the Titan, ending the first turn for Skaven. I start the turn by positioning one of the surviving horse archer unit in front of the plague monks to redirect them, and then I move the archer unit inside the building to make the overrun from the plague monk hit nothing but empty air. I then backpedal with the Necropolis Knight on the left to be 17 inches away from the frenzied rat ogres, to try to force a long distance charge. The horse archer on the far right moves toward the center, while the rest of my units backpedal a bit. The Winds of Magic grant 3 power dice and the casket another 3, and I use the first 2 to try to cast Banishment on the Doomwell, but it's dispelled. I tend to dice the casket on the Doomwell, but it fails to wound. And then I cast 2 Burning Gaze with 1 power dice each, and kill 3 gutter runners, making them panic and flee. And on the shooting phase I managed to kill 1 Packmaster from the rat ogres, and nothing else. The second turn starts with a charge from the plague monks on the horse archers, and a failed charge from the rat ogres on the Necropolis Knight, since they didn't pass their frenzy check. Then the Doomwells move forward, the slaves move forward toward the archers, the rattling gun and the clan rats with the engineer move forward too. The magic phase starts with 8 power dice for the Skaven player, who tries to cast Pestilent Breath and Cloud of Corruption to get rid of my shaft, but I dispel both. Then he casts Plague and Opposed on my big archer unit, killing 18 of them, wounding the general and the Hierophant. That severely weakened the unit, but I really needed that chaff unit alive to stop the Plague Monks. On the shooting phase, the Warp Lightning Cannon hits the Hydro Titan with strength 4, but fails to wound. The Doomwell tries to zap the Horse Archer, but gets a misfire and takes 2 wounds. It tries again, but gets another miscast, this time increasing its speeds to 4d6. The Tear Zaps hits the Horse Archer, but fails to wound on a natural 1. Finally, the Giselles try to get rid of the last Horse Archer, but fail to hit thanks to the hard cover from the Doomwell. On the combat phase, the Plague Monks slaughter the poor Horse Archer and advance 7 inches forward. I start the turn with 2 charges. On the left flank, the Necropolis Knight charged the flank of the slaves, and on the right flank, the Necropolis Knight unit charged the Doomwell. The slave decides to hold, since now the Rat Ogres are seeing the rear of the Necropolis Knight unit. If they survive a round of combat, things could turn ugly for the Necropolis Knights. Meanwhile, the rest of the units move outside of the Plague Monk line of sight, and the Casket of Souls starts to move outside the Night Runner's line of sight. The magic phase starts with 12 power dice for me and 5 dispel dice for my opponent. I start by 2 dicing smiting on the archers on the building, which my opponent dispels. I then try to cast Net of Amintok on the Plague Monks with 2 dice, and my opponent uses his remaining dispel dice to stop it. Then I cast Protection on the archers to grant them a 3+ ward save against Plague. Then a 2 dice Desert Wind lets me heal the Horse Archers and move the Casket outside the line of sight of the Night Runners. With another 2 power dice, I cast Banishment on the Night Runners, killing 7 of them and making them panic outside the board. Finally, I cast Desiccation on the Doomwell to ensure the Knights kill it in just 1 round of combat. I really don't want them to get zapped by this infernal machine. On the shooting phase, my archers on the tower kill 1 Gutter Runner, making them panic, while my small archer units manage to kill the last Packmaster and wound a Rat Ogre, and the Horse Archer kill a Plague Monk. On the combat on the left, the Necropolis Knight kill 13 slaves, and the slaves break. The Necropolis Knight can reform outside the line of sight of the Rat Ogres. On the other combat, the Necropolis Knights easily deal with the Doomwell and overrun 9 inches, making contact with the Clan Rats. The Rat Ogres pass their Leadership 5 Frenzy test and march toward the Necropolis Knights, while the Plague Monks reform and the Gutter Runners rally. The magic phase starts with 8 power dice for the Skaven, who start by casting a 2 dice Pestilent Breath, which I let through. Luckily, it only kills 1 Horse Archer and wounds the Casket. Then he tries to 3 dice Wither on the archers on the tower, which I dispelled, and with the remaining power dice he casts Plague on the archers again, but only 4 of them die. But the spell bounces to the Horse Archer, killing 1 of them, the Hydro Titan, failing to wound it, the other unit of Horse Archer, killing 1 of them too, and finally the engaged Necropolis Knight, killing 1 model and 9 Clan Rats. In the shooting phase, the Rattling Gun tries to kill the Horse Archer unit, but gets a problem and explodes, and the Giselles try to finish the Horse Archer unit, but 1 of them remains alive. The Warp Lightning Cannon hits the exposed flank of the Necropolis Knight on the left and kills 1 of them. In the combat phase, the Necropolis Knights kill all the Clan Rats and restrain while the Engineer flees in panic. The turn starts with a charge from the Necropolis Knight on the Giselles, who were only 6 inches away. On the left, the other Necropolis Knight unit charged the Rat Ogres. To evade the fury of the Plague Monks again, I make my archers exit the building, while a unit of Horse Archer positions itself in front of the Plague Monks. Then, the magic phase starts with 11 power dice for me. I start by 2 dicing Net on the Plague Monks, which my opponent dispel. Then, a 2 dice Smiting on the archers who just left the building, which have no apparent target in front of them, followed by a 2 dice protection, which my opponent dispels. A 1 dice Burning Gaze kills a Gutter Runner, but they pass the Panic test. Then a 2 dice Desert Wind, which lets me swift reform my archers to look at the Plague Monks, and switch the Horse Archer, which are chaffing up the Plague Monks. I then remember that the Titan has Spirit Leech, and 1 dice it and cause 2 wounds on Skrulk. Then a 3 dice Desiccation on the Plague Monks gets me a miscast, and I roll a 10, making the wizard forget 3 spells and lose 3 wizard levels. The combined shots of the Horse Archer, the Small Archer unit, and the Smited Archer on the Toughness 3 Plague Monks managed to kill a total of 3 Plague Monks. It appears that no matter how I stack the odds on my favor, my archers simply don't want to do their job. The Necropolis Knights on the right pummel the Giselles and kill all but 3 of them, and receive no wound in return. The Giselles run away, while the Necropolis Knight restrain and reform. On the other flank, the combat is quite different. The Rat Ogres pummel the poor snakes before they can hit back, killing 2 of them, and then the remaining Necropolis Knight cause a wound and manage to stay alive on 1 wound left. The only movement in this round is the charge from the Plague Monks on the Horse Archer in front of them, and the remaining Gutter Runners who charge the flank of the Archer unit. The magic phase starts with 8 power dice for the Skaven, who start the magic phase with a 4 dice Wither on the Archers, which I let through, and a 4 dice Plague, which is cast with Irresistible Force. The spell kills 12 archers and wound most of my characters in the unit, but the miscast makes Skrulk forget Plague and Wither, and without Plague I have nothing left to fear from the Skaven magic phase. In the shooting phase, the Warp Lightning Cannon fails to hit the Hydro Titan by 1 inch, and in the combat, the Rat Ogres easily kill the remaining snake and reform, while the Frenzied Plague Monks slaughter the Horse Archer and run forward 6 inches. The remaining Necropolis Knight units move away from the Rat Ogres, while the rest of my archers move toward them. The magic phase starts with 8 power dice for me, and I start by casting a boosted banishment on 1 dice and a power stone on the Rat Ogres, but it causes only 1 wound, and then a 2-diced casket causes 3 more wounds to the Rat Ogres. With the remaining 5 power dice, I try to cast Spirit Leech on Skrulk, but my opponent easily dispels it. In the movement phase, the Rat Ogres advance and the Plague Monk reform. The Winds of Magic only grant 3 power dice to the Skaven player, who tries to cast some spell, but it fails on a really low roll. On the shooting phase, the Warp Lightning Cannon tries to kill the remaining Necropolis Knight. It hits them, but only with Strength 2, and manages to kill only 1 model. The Horse Archer unit repositions to have a clear line of sight to the Rat Ogres, while the Big Archer unit moves forward. The magic phase starts with 10 power dice for me, and I start by casting a boosted banishment, which is cast with Irresistible Force and eliminates all the Rat Ogres. Then I try to 6 dice Spirit Leech on Skrulk, but my opponent dispels it again, finishing the game.